Jason, you're on mute.
Jason, you're on mute.
That's
That's
what Rick
better.
said. Thank you. That's why you couldn't hear me ask you what you were saying, Rick. I apologize. Okay.
I'm working on reading lips. I did a lot on the pitch.
Okay. So we're going to start this at a relatively basic level, and I don't want it to be, demeaning or anyone think that it's a waste of their time. We are definitely going to grow upon this topic and really take it to some more levels. But I don't want to make an assumption that somebody just knows certain things and then ends up kind of getting lost in the conversation. So what is our job? I mean, it's going to seem super simple. So kind of shift gears back to maybe your entry level or your grade 7 clinic. But as a referee, what are kind of the 3 tiers of our job on the field? Go ahead, Carson.
There's 3: safety, entertainment, and then equality.
Okay. Is there a specific order that we like to approach those in?
Yeah, safety, equality, entertainment.
Exactly. So, and as you work up the ladder, Carson, you're one of the individuals. There are a few other people here that are wanting to move towards regional. You get to a certain level of soccer that the second and third might, well, even the first, the order of those might start changing. We've all watched professional soccer matches, no matter the country, and it seems to appear that entertainment value might be number one, and maybe not always the same equality in decisions or safety for the players on the pitch, but they're about butts and seats and entertainment. So for youth soccer, even for amateur soccer in Idaho, safety is the first consideration. So please don't ever sacrifice that. In any of the things we're talking about, make sure that we have safety for the players. What is maybe some people that have had a formal assessment or formal evaluation before, when people are giving you advice, when coaches or assessors are giving you advice, what is kind of the coined term you hear from everyone in regards to how you choose to manage a game? What is the feedback that's normally given in regards to that? I'm trying to lead you down the path without giving it to you. Hopefully I'm not too vague. Rick, you've been in the game of soccer for many years. So how do you manage a game as opposed to Mitch or Carson or myself? Like, what makes your style different?
Other than the fact I got a really great view of the game from being so high, you mean, or
That just means you get sunburned more.
that's true. Well,
So
there's personality, of course, that goes with each referee. Each referee has their own personality they bring to a match. It's not like we've got one single mold from which referees are cast. So it's applying your personality and also trying to figure out what the match is requires at that particular moment as well. What's the personality of the match?
exactly. So find your style. That's kind of what I was looking for. I was trying to be vague, but encouragingly vague. Everyone has different styles. We all bring a different skill set to the field, different strengths, different weaknesses. So nothing's right or wrong as long as you stay within these 3 qualities. So your style shouldn't be violating any of these 3 qualities that we're looking to bring to the field. So find your way. Some people are more man managers. Some people are more strict with the law, strict with foul selection. There's a wider range. We've all seen individuals wearing white badges, which are the top level of our game, referee games very, very differently. So that is the beauty of soccer. There's a whole lot of gray. So finding your way to honor the game, but still utilize your personality will definitely serve you well. You'll find out very quickly if you're trying to use a style of management that doesn't go along with your skill set. You'll figure that out very quickly because your games probably won't go very well. So just being open to the conversation and open to feedback. The other big thing here, and I think we fail on this a lot as referees, we're dealing with people. So, and not necessarily soccer players. If you're showing up on a Friday evening after work to do an adult amateur game or even a kid's game, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old game, you have no idea what happened from 9 to 5 that day. So coming out and blowing up on them or taking a really hard line on your management may be a complete disservice to you, because maybe you just need to take a second, take a step back and talk to that person, not necessarily that player. So don't ever forget that we're dealing with people. So if you really want to manage these people and manage this game, sometimes we take our referee hat off for a second and we hold up a game and say, hey man, what's going on? Like, are you okay? Like you seem to have something just really off, or you're having a really rough day. Like maybe you need to take a break for a second and sub off, but this just isn't working so well today. So don't forget that we're dealing with people.
Hey, Jason,
Sir.
I throw something in on that.
Yeah, please.
The 180 from that is also kind of always been a challenge, is trying to get them to see us as people. When you manage a game, to a lot of the guys that show up, they've had bad experiences with referees and they see us all as like the enemy and as like just this faceless enemy out there on the pitch with them, and they're ready to go from the start to treat us just like one more of those guys they hate.
I think it's a valid point for sure. I saw this meme, I don't know, a couple months ago or something. I posted on my social media and I thought, I don't know that I've heard someone describe it better before. It was so simple. It says, this is a beautiful, imperfect game. Why are referees expected to be perfect? Like everything about the game is imperfect. The way the ball bounces, the touch, a half second late on this and the ball would have gone in, but it missed by a quarter inch and hit the bar. I mean, it's a beautiful, imperfect game, but everyone expects perfection from the official. So, I mean, I'll offer us.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead, Mitch, please.
As someone who has a lot of experience being hated, the way I typically would do that at work as well as on the pitch is just open conversation. Because if you're a robot, then that's typically when you see yourself get shut down the most. And so if you kind of say things like that, like, hey man, like you missed that pass, I missed that call, my bad. Like I'm not perfect either, but like not in a like patronizing way. You know what I mean? You have to find that balance, but trying to have that just an open dialogue typically humanizes you as much as it humanizes them.
No, I completely agree. I want to offer a caveat just because we may not have everyone on the same comfort level on this call. So I 100% agree with you, Mitch. I don't think it's a bad thing if someone's yelling for a handball and you didn't see it and the law states that we have to see it in order to call it. Say, look, I apologize. I did not see the handball. Like, it's not against me. I didn't see it, so I can't call it. Now, if someone's yelling for a PK and you were looking right at it, you can't say, I didn't see it. So you have to be very careful, admitting fault or, hey, I missed that one. Well, that miss is a 0-0 and that's a PK. You cost us the game. So be very careful when you're admitting fault here. But I 100% agree. We are human, and it's okay for us to say, hey, you know what? I didn't see that one. I'm sorry. So I agree with you, Mitch.
Well, and not just admitting fault, but just not just admitting fault, but like just saying what you're seeing so that they can hear what's going on. Like, hey, you think it's a PK? This is what I saw, and this is what we're going with.
Yep. And articulating that, and that's where I know that the FIFA considerations are a little different way for us to look at the game. I know it's new for some individuals that have been reffing for 30 years, and just in the last 4 or 5 years, they've come out with the FIFA considerations. But it helps you articulate so clearly why you made your decision that as long as if you really saw what happened and you know exactly how you applied the considerations, it should be very easy to tell a player. Now, they're not necessarily going to agree with you, and you just have to come to terms with, no matter what you say, they're not going to like it. But if you look the player straight in the eye and be like, look, he bent his knee, they pulled the foot back, I know you got contact, I know that hurt, but that's not excessive force, that's not serious foul play, I'm sorry, it's not a red. So just being able to articulate that, or even to a coach or a technical person, doesn't mean they're going to magically agree with you, but it shows your credibility and I did see it, this is exactly what happened, and move on. I'm sure they're going to tell you, well, I got a video, or you don't know what you're talking about, whatever. I mean, it's not personal. It's tough because we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. So it's really tough for us to not take it personally because we really do work very hard at being accurate. but at the end of the day, it's not personal. They're frustrated with the game, the decision, the call. They're not frustrated with you as a person. And that's where I struggle when people start making it personal, because this isn't a personal situation. This is a game. So I love the input. So coming away from that, so we've talked about your personality. We've talked about, hey, we make mistakes. We're not perfect individuals. But what tools do we have, both within the law and just ourselves? What tools do we have that we can leverage in managing a match? Robin, I see you on this call. Can I single you out? What is one tool you use in trying to manage a match?
Talking to the players, trying to answer questions when a foul happens, or if they think a foul, if I have time, or tell them, hey, I'll talk to you after the game or something like that. I think it's really important too, because we have a lot of newer, maybe younger referees. I think it's important also is go up and introduce yourself to the coaches. I mean, I know we have social distancing right now, but you can still stand away from them and introduce yourself. And I think you need to know the flow of the game, how the players play, what club you're dealing with, those type of things.
I 100% agree. So just being personable, but having open communication. I think that's fantastic. Managing people is communication. Perfect. Rick, what else? What's another tool we've been given to manage a game?
So sometimes just your presence can help manage the match, and being in a position where people can be reasonably assured that you're there to see the play. You try to create that kind of confidence that you're not so far away that they just don't believe you. So being physically present can also take the temperature off some encounters as well. If you're right there, that can help a lot. I'm not sure if that's one of the things you're looking for, but it certainly is helpful.
I want to chime in too when you're done.
Go right ahead, Brooke.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know is helpful for me is the tone of my whistle. That's going to help with, getting my point across without having to explain every little thing.
And to add to that, Brooke, too, not only the tone of whistle, but the tone of your voice when you're talking to a player.
Right.
Because if you start screaming and yelling and not trying to talk in a calm way, that's going to help escalate that game or whatever's going on at that time with a foul, with, bumps, whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Very, very true.
I love this conversation. So we as referees work very hard on trying not to lose our cool, not to lose our emotional stability. But our whistle can sound very, very angry without us sounding very, very angry. And none of us like a Fox 40 whistle in the ear. So if you're really having a problem with somebody, rather than yell at them, just give a hard tweet right next to somebody accidentally, and they'll figure it out real quick that you're not messing around. If it happens to be an adult match, maybe at 11 o'clock when you can tell people were out a bit late the night before, your whistle might be way more controlling than a card that day, because loud whistles and hangovers don't go together very well. But so no, this is a fantastic conversation. So I mean, we've gone down the rabbit hole on experience and showing things that we've developed, and we've kind of, not necessarily incorrectly, but we've skipped over a couple very easy
121.84
that I can see in the background of Rick on his digital background. But yellow and
I was
red,
going to say cards to me is the last resort in a lot of ways, because I usually can talk to the players and warn them and just let them know we're not doing that today, and then see what happens. If it comes to having to give a card after a warning, then so be it.
So Robin, I absolutely love that you made this comment, and I'm not wanting to single you out at all. I think it's a very good topic to have. I'm going to wait momentarily and bring it up a little later in one of the clips, but I agree with you. But at the same time, we need to be careful as an official. So I want to circle back on it, but I love your comment about cards aren't the only form of management. So how many times have you pulled a captain over? If you've got a person who's not listening to you and things just keep ramping up, obviously your A and B conversation isn't going well. So bring a C in, bring a teammate in, bring a captain in, bring a coach in, like bring somebody else in and say, look, this on you. I'm trying. This isn't working. Your turn now. You take care of this situation. The last 2 bullet points here, call more fouls and slow the game down. So they want to play. They're there to have fun. But if they're being jerks about it, keep it simple. Take away their fun. I'm not saying that we're making the game about us. We're trying to maintain safety, equality, and then have fun for everyone, not fun just for the person who's whacking everyone. So start calling a whole bunch of fouls. And when they start screaming, ref, let us play. This is ridiculous. We're not 12. Be like, okay, well, as soon as you act like you're not 12, we'll play like we're not 12. Like, let's get our heads back together. Let's get back to playing soccer. And I'm more than happy to let you play. So very simple management techniques that we don't necessarily, I agree with Robin. We don't have to use cards. Cards is one of 7, and we've already named more options on this list that can be used. So I agree, misconduct should be one of our final resorts to management. But I want to offer one caveat as we move forward on that. So what are 3 basic principles that I hope, if anything, if you take nothing else away from this training, I really hope that you take these to heart and really get comfortable with them. And I would love to hear any of your feedback as we go one by one through these principles of what it means to you. So going into the first one, Matt, Matt, sir, are you in a place that you have audio? I know sometimes people jump on and they stay on silent because they're not in a good spot for audio. So
Matt's driving right now.
Yeah, possibly. You know what, Mitch, I'm going to ask you to talk about this first one. So the first one I bring up here, what does this mean to you? Never let a match restart if it's not under control.
So, I mean, that kind of keys into all 3 of the original, C that you were talking about. If you let the match start when it's not under control, then you're typically putting player safety at risk because they're just going to go at each other. You're not really doing your job of managing equality because somebody's going to get targeted, something's going to happen. And this kind of speaks to your ability to manage a game like that you would let it restart because there's no reason to. You have control of when the restart is. And so there's no reason to restart if you feel like it's about to be unsafe. And you can, if you're paying attention, you can read the pulse of the game very easily just by, all of a sudden everybody's getting aggressive. And this kind of goes back to one of those tools.
You hit your mute button. I'm sorry.
It kind of speaks to one of those tools that you were talking about, slowing the match down. You don't have to let the match restart. If it's going to be out of control, and that's going to cause safety issues. That's not going to be, speak to equality, and nobody wants to watch, a Spain v. Holland World Cup final. So that's not entertaining either. Howard Webb.
It's entertaining, but on a very different level.
And to add to that, to me, if you don't keep control of the game, then you're going to have a lot of crap going on behind your back that you're not going to see. And you hope that your assistant referees pick it up.
Correct. This is definitely a teamwork discussion for sure. I do like that. So Mitch, I love the path you were going down. I think you were going even more complex than I would have hoped. It's the basic principle of slow the game down. If they want to play, but they're being jerks about it, then just take away the play. Hey, the game stopped. I'm not going to allow this to restart until you guys knock it off. If it's a corner kick, why let the game restart and have to immediately call a PK when we can just hold the kick and, calm the whole situation down and end the shenanigans before the ball's in play. So it's just a basic principle. Anytime the match is stopped, if anything's going on you need to deal with it. Don't let the match restart. Hold the throw in, hold the kick, whatever it is. Deal with your problem on a dead ball when you don't have to make a match critical decision, and then let the match restart. But the match has stopped itself. So use that. The match gave you a stoppage to now regain control, pull somebody aside if you need to, whatever you need, but keep, keep control. Don't allow it to restart and get crazy right off the bat. So you were right there. You were giving us all the information we were looking for. Fred,
So,
do you have audio, Fred?
I don't know if I'm muted or not. Am I on?
No, I've got you. Okay, so this next one I bring up, I'm curious what your thoughts are here. So allow a match and players to set the bar for expectations as long as that bar is at an acceptable level. So how does that factor into our match control?
I'm out.
Okay, I got on a little bit late, Jason, so I'm not sure what preceded me, but I think you got to be able to let the guys play like they want to play if they're going to play safely, okay? And so the level of play, the acceptable level to the players is what you got to focus on. As soon as that starts getting away from what you think they want, you got to pull it back in. But I think you got to let it go to the point that they're playing at their level and they're playing at their acceptance.
I couldn't have said it better. Even joining late, that was spot on, right on the head. So has anyone ever had an experience where you refereed a match and it just felt like you wanted more out of the game than the players did? Like I was trying to get them to play to this level and it was a bunch of whining and complaining for 90 minutes because they didn't like your foul selection. They didn't like how you were reffing. And the realization after the match is maybe you were
No, I'm gonna put
one
the ice
that
cream
wasn't
away.
consistent. Did I miss something? Go ahead. So, Fred, you hit the nail on the head. So if we allow the players to set the bar, then you're not going to have undue discontent because they're allowed to play at the level they want to play. Now, I put that second caveat in there of it still has to be an acceptable level. If two teams want to come out and just have a bloodbath and beat the heck out of each other physically, then we obviously can't allow that.
Yeah,
Unless it's a World Cup final.
yeah, you got to have your own standards. You got to stick with them. Yeah, you really do.
So the other beauty of this is if you let the players set the bar, so you let, without failing to call simple fouls and losing control of the game, first 15, 20 minutes, you feel the players out. How is the match going? How are they wanting to play? Is it a little more physical? Do we have frustrated people that you can tell there's already tension? So you need to bring that bar down a little bit and call it a little tighter. Like if you read the players initially, and then you kind of figure out where that bar is, it becomes very simple to identify the outliers. What challenge is a little too hard? What sub that comes on is just a little out of control? Like, hey, everyone out here is doing really good. You're being a jerk and you're causing the problem. Everyone else is good. Like I can read everyone out here. Everyone's good with this level of play right now, except you. You're my problem. You're the person who's the outlier. So I need to manage you and bring you back down. Or here's your caution because that foul was so different than everything else that's going on in this match. I'm going to draw the line there and say, hey, that one's too much, but everything else is good. And you'll get a lot more buy-in if they feel that you're working with them and then just identifying the outliers as opposed to you trying to set this bar and make the players play up or play down to whatever bar you've set. But I completely agree with you, Fred. We can never sacrifice safety or allow it to get in a place that is illegal or unequal or unsafe for the players.
Yeah, I think you got to pay attention right in the beginning of the match and try to find that level. Keep watching it, and then you can either be tighter or looser, as you go, and just be aware of what direction you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's a player reaction, player, the way they're playing. It all determines that for you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never
Go
know
ahead.
when to butt in.
Go
I
right
was
ahead.
going to say one of the hard places for me is tournaments, because you'll do like a U14 match and you'll expect that U14 that you did in the morning to be the same level as the one you do in the afternoon, and they can be like a U18 playing. Sometimes it's like just such a huge difference of level, and so sometimes it almost catches me off guard, like, oh, I did a U14 match this morning, it was so boring, and then so I go in to a tournament game later that day going, oh, well, I know what U14s are going to be in this tournament. And then it's, I'm the one trying to, oh yeah, I've got to now backpedal and manage this game. So I think when I have a lot of games in a row and I'm kind of setting an expectation myself, what I'm looking for, it's bad for me. So
I love this topic, Brooke. I actually want to take a slight different spin on it, but I'm thrilled you brought this up. So I think one of the hardest things up and coming referees have to do is tournament play, because 1 minute you could be on a U13 girls game that everyone's just hugs and kisses and picking daisies. And then the very next game, you're on a U17, U18 boys civil war. And so you have to immediately shift gears as a referee and completely be in a different mental place for that game. And then the very next game, you're back to like a U14 kids game again. So it's not the physicality of it. It's in tournament play. When you have multiple games rapid fire, you as a referee might be required to be in very different mental places. And it's very difficult to switch gears that quickly, come off a game that you just managed your hiney off on some rivalry game, and then shift gears into a very docile younger level game, and you're calling crazy fouls right out of the gates thinking you got to stranglehold this game, and everyone's like, whoa, relax, we just want to play.
It's also helpful at tournaments too, because, referees, we're all in the tent. Ask around and see who's done that group of that team and get some feedback if you have time to see how the team plays, how the coach reacts to things. And that'll kind of help you when you get to that game, because you do get your schedule, at least you'll be better prepared to know what to expect out of the coaches and players, so you can better manage what you want to do.
I agree, Robin. All preparation we can do is helpful. Fred, what did you have to offer?
Yeah, I had a really interesting tournament game one time when I was down in Phoenix, a pretty high level tournament. And so I was doing a U19 girls game, and which one of the teams was coached by a college coach. And there were a lot of college players basically on this team. They needed another team in the bracket. And so the tournament guys brought in like a recreation 19 girls team, coached by a recreation coach.
Ouch.
And from the first whistle, no matter what I called, one of the coaches would yell at me. And I've called it tight. The college coach wouldn't want him to play. I called it loose. The recreation coach was going crazy. Protect my players, he kept yelling at me, And we went up to the first half, and I called both coaches together, and I said, look, guys, you got to recognize what's going on here, okay? Okay, yeah, sure. Well, we got about 5 minutes into the half again, and it still going on. It was the worst game I think I've ever had to referee. And at the end of the game, nobody was happy. The one team won like 9-0, and both coaches told me that's the worst game they've ever seen refereed.
It probably was, Brett.
At least it was consistent.
So to this point, actually, Jason, I think the toughest thing in this one for the advancing referee is it's tough to shift gears from one game to the next as you go up and down either age levels or skill levels. But what about the match where you have the first half and you've set a pretty, you've been able to set a pretty high bar for, some physicality. It's safe, but they're doing well. And you get yourself in the second half now, and you were comfortable in the first half. Now you've got to make a really quick change because now things are going to hell in the second half.
Yep.
You thought, and this is the toughest part, I think, for the advancing referee, is to adjust even within, the space of 10, 15 minutes, that what you thought was going great can blow up in a minute if you're not careful.
A lot of that too depends upon what the score is at halftime too.
No, for sure. But I think that's where we can definitely adapt and show our soccer IQ as officials. I mean, what do teams do at halftime? They review the first half, they make corrections, they make adjustments, and they come out ready to be better. So when we go into halftime, are we just having our granola bar and water? Or are we sitting there thinking, all right, this team's got owned. So they're going to come out hard. They're going to try to win this space. They might tweak their formation. Are you mentally preparing for what the second half might bring so that you're ready to adapt quicker? I mean, I know that I brought up some entry-level referees earlier in this call. This call is definitely designed for advanced referees. So we should be doing that. I don't necessarily expect a year 1 to year 3 referee to be critiquing themselves at halftime and finding ways that they can prepare themselves mentally to deal with the situation that might come in the second half. But as advanced referees, we definitely need to be doing that. If we can read the game, if we're a student of the game, we know what the losing team is going to try to do, or we know based on their formations where they're going to start pressing or how they're going to try to change things. And they may still surprise us, but you at least come out with that mentality of, all right, I'm ready for this and this and this. And you're like, oh, that's new. I didn't see that. They made this sub and this guy's, girl's going crazy over here now. So, but at least you're trying to anticipate, read the game, and be prepared for what might come at you. Mitch, go ahead.
Can I add to that? Yeah.
Please.
So each game, especially in a tournament, and this is something I heard a long time ago. Each tournament and then each half, even to Rick's comment, I think about the 3 Ps and what I need from each one, and that's personality. What personality does this game need me to have? And then pace, and then positioning. And so, like, if it's a U13 girls game, I don't need a lot of pace to get the positioning that I need, but I might need a certain kind of personality. Do I need to be like, do I need to be a cop or do I need to be a dad? And then the next game, I've got, U18 boys final, some sort of thing like that. I've got to be a little bit more diligent. I've got to have a lot more pace so that I can get that same, a different kind of positioning, but a better kind of positioning. And then you evaluate that, like you said, at halftime, going into the next half, given what I have in front of me, what kind of personality, pace, and positioning am I going to need moving on? And I spend the first 5-ish minutes of each half going into each game, thinking about those things moving forward.
I think it's fantastic. We keep talking about, and I know that a lot of us right now are doing youth games, and I kind of came into this with a youth mentality, but this goes the same way in adult. If you just went from a men's premier match and you try to shift gears to a men's over 40 match and you don't call fouls, you let them just start whacking the crap out of each other, you're going to have a fight. Like, they don't want to play physical. They're going to, because they just are a half step behind, and physically, their mind's writing checks, their body can't cash. Like, it's going to happen. But if you don't keep that match under control and call those simple fouls, you will have a fight in a men's over 40 match, because they don't want that. So it's same thing. What's the 3 Ps you need in this match? Like last match, they wanted to play, they wanted to battle, they wanted me to just find little places to tweak and control. And in the very next match, they want you to full on control the match, because they may bump into each other, but their joints and bodies can't take that contact. They need the fouls. So I'll be the first person to raise my hand on an over 40 men's match. I'm a liability as a referee, because I don't think that way. It is difficult for me to tweak my foul recognition and retrain my mind to go back to calling the fouls that they want. Stuff happens in a match and I'm like, no way, get up, that's nothing. And next thing you know, someone's punching somebody. So like, we have to be prepared as a referee to serve that game on that day. So it's a fault of mine. I should be better at that as well. But it goes the same way with going down to a little kids match, but also going up to, an over 30 and over 40 or a women's match where they
Don't
just want
forget
to have
over
fun. They don't
50s.
want a civil war. They just want to have fun. Some women want to battle. I'm not saying they're all pretty matches, but some of them just want to play. They don't want you out there getting crazy as a referee. They're just like, hey, whoa, relax, calm down, we're good. So I love that 3 Ps. Like, what does this match or what does this half need? All right, last principle here. We've kind of talked about this, but when you feel the match start to come up, or you have a mass confrontation or something's going on, we need to make sure that we are never someone who is increasing the emotion, throwing fuel on the fire. We shouldn't be shouting and screaming at somebody. Let the whistle do the screaming. You can look nice and calm and collected, and let that whistle scream the heck at somebody. It doesn't mean that, like what Rick said, sometimes we need command presence. sometimes we need to get someone's attention. So we might shout at them. We might raise our voice. We might increase our presence. But the minute they turn around, then bring it back down.
Give them the old Kalina.
The Kalina, I mean, this is Brian Hall. Brian Hall's who coined command presence. That's a Brian Hall thing. But don't ever shout at a coach from 50 yards away. If it's worth saying, jog over there, have a personal conversation, or at least get close enough you're not having to scream at them. It's so much more personal. It's going to mean a lot more to them as well. You know, what's more intimidating, someone yelling at you from 30 yards away or someone standing right next to you saying, Coach, I understand, but if you say that again, I will kick you out of this game. Like look, I'm taking the time to come over and be personal here. You're not crossing this line again, as opposed to screaming at them from the center circle. You're just going to invoke them screaming back. So you're just going to elevate that situation even more. So doesn't mean we can't have command presence, but just make sure that we are always controlled, back to where we need to be, working on relationship building and not just getting amped up and elevated and emotionally compromised. Okay, so those are the principles I wanted to go over. We have 3 clips here. I hope a lot of you have seen at least 2 of them because they were in our FIFA considerations game management training that went out 2 weeks ago. But I think some of the stuff we've talked about already go hand in hand with these clips. So this first clip is a fantastic example of don't let the match restart until you're ready. This referee is very methodical about what she does in the World Cup, and she lets the players have a moment. She's not rushing anyone. She's not causing herself problems. She lets them sort it out. She lets them get together. But even from the beginning of this clip, I want you to listen to the tone in her voice. It is very approachable. It's very personable. There's nothing that would make you not want to work with her, even from the beginning of this clip.
A mi señal, ya no jugar, ¿vale? ¿Necesitas ver el número o no? No. Acuérdate del metro, Belén, el metro. Come on, ladies. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
So even just right there, it was a very pleasant tone, just trying to get the players to buy into her. She's not drawing the line yet. She doesn't need to be the police officer yet. Right now, she's just trying to get buy-in, move players in the direction she wants, but doesn't need to draw any line in the sand yet.
Ya tenemos reversa. Y hay behind por los dos lados y tengo otra también que está lista para. A mi señal, ya no jugar.
Not sure why it reset, but that's okay. So very patient. She's letting players jump in and out of the wall. Like she's not in a rush. She's not trying to, hey, right here, right now, let's go, stop messing around. Like she's not causing herself problems. We're 10 minutes into this match. It's 0-0. Everyone seems calm. So let's just keep that. Let's maintain that control. So I know this isn't a great example of, people fighting in the penalty area and you having to hold up a corner kick to try to bring it back down. But this is just a great example of managing the situation. If everyone's chill, go with it. Be calm. Like just work with them. Nobody's complaining about time. Nobody needs you to rush this situation. So just let them work through it and be part of that solution. Any comments from you of things that is, you obviously watched this whole clip earlier in the other training, but anything else that you saw or took out from this? The one other subtlety you'll see is when she's setting the wall, she turns around and she has her hand out for the attacking wall as well. So she's managing both this is a half-second past where she's at, but she's facing the yellow wall at one point, letting them line up, and she just turns around and puts her arm out so that she stops the red wall from getting too close. So she's just trying to be efficient in the management of the restart. So she does a fantastic job managing that situation. This clip also came from that training. This is more of an example of maybe taking too many risks. Where we talk about risk and flow, and sometimes we take risks in a match to allow the game to flow, and sometimes we just need to call the simple foul and stop things from escalating. So you'll probably recognize this when we start this clip. Now, my first comment, and I made this in the other training about game management. You may regret letting a match escalate and say, "Oh crap! All right, I should have stopped that early. All right, I let that get a little out of control." That doesn't take away the fact that that challenge was a cautionable offense, and you need to give that card. Now he's going to say, "Well, he fouled me, and you should have called it," and you might agree with them, but that doesn't change the fact that they let themselves get out of control, and they committed a reckless challenge, and that is a cautionable offense. So do not second guess that. That person endangered the safety of their opponent, and that should be a caution. So leading into this, there are 3 separate situations that could have been fouls to kill this before it even happens. Right there. Why does it keep doing that? All right, apparently PowerPoint dislikes me tonight. So there were 3 different fouls that happened in that clip. The one right there from behind. There was another one right before the final challenge where the guy just bowls the other guy over from behind and shoves him. And the referee's setting the bar higher than the players want to play at. The referee should just call the simple foul, keep it simple, and the referee's the one that's out of alignment with the rest of the game. So make sure that we're in tune with what the temperature of the game is. Robin mentioned that, if there's a goal scored or if something happens and all of a sudden the temperature starts changing, we need to adapt. We need to make sure that we've identified that the variables have changed. What we were okay with 5 minutes ago is no longer the case because the game has changed. So we need to change.
You
So
gotta watch that second foul too, because you're got like with that third foul, that edges on to retaliations.
It definitely does. And that's what the person's going to get up and say, "Hey, this is on you. This is your fault." And unfortunately, they're right. They were fouled and we should have called it. We made a calculated decision. We offered flow and took a risk and it didn't pan out. But that doesn't mean that they weren't fouled. They were fouled. We chose not to call it.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. So I really like these last 2 clips that have partnered together. I think anyone who has watched Bjorn Kuipers officiate, the Dutch referee, I truly do feel, even though he hasn't technically had a World Cup final, I truly think he is the top referee in the world. I mean, based on the Champions League, the Europa League, all the other matches this gentleman's been assigned, but there's a reason. His personality, his man management, his game management is one of a kind. So these clips are from the same game. And I set it up this way because you'll see in the first clip, he has a personal interaction with a player and he sets the bar. "I'm done with this, no more." You see his reaction. And then a few minutes later in the game, you'll see the second clip. And the decision's very easy because his management technique set it up. Like, "Hey, I warned you, I talked to you, now here you go." So first clip here on the left. He stops it on a dead ball. He doesn't let the match restart. So you see a player sitting on the ground in the area. So he stops it. He's not going to award the penalty kick. And now he's going to go manage the situation. Here's the line in the sand. Those are some pretty strong gestures, so be careful. But I have to admit that I agree with them pretty much in anything dealing with Neymar. But so he's very direct. Like he stops the game in the player on the ground is Neymar. So you have, like Fred referred to, 2 very differing styles of soccer. You have Brazil against Costa Rica. So you have a team that's free flowing, wants to, play the samba, move the ball quick and attack, and a team that knows they have no chance in heck at winning this match. And so they're going to pack 15 players behind the ball and foul the heck out of them and try to get out of this match at 0-0. So, I mean, you have 2 very, very differing styles of soccer here, or at least approaches going into this match. So, off the ball, you have a forward flopping down on the ground, trying to get a card. He manages it very well. And then later in the match, sets this situation up. Now, judging by the tactics, it looks like Costa Rica has been effective because I'm guessing they're not losing based on they're trying to completely slow and kill this game off. But Brazil wants to take an unfair advantage and take a quick throw when there's a player down hurt. So he blows the game dead. And you have a big public reaction from a player who's already been very clearly warned. And so to go back to, Robin, I told you I was going to come back to your comment earlier. So your point was, use cards as the last option, which I agree with. But the caveat there is, if it's a situation that everyone knows as a card and the player knew they were going to get a card when they did it, they got burned, the player went right by him and they reached out and just grabbed their jersey and held them. If you don't give that card, the problems you're causing for yourself, because now everyone's like, oh, okay, what else can we get away with?
And I was just going to say that I agree with you in that instant that, yeah, sometimes right off the top, a card is warranted in those type of cases, but lots of times you can just talk to the players and just give them a warning and watch and see how the flow of the game goes. But in a situation like what you just brought up, I totally agree with you.
No, and I knew you would. I know you're experienced referee. I wanted you set it up perfectly earlier, and I knew we had a clip where we were going to kind of come back to it. So he drew the line in the sand with Neymar in the first clip. He's like, no more, I'm done, let it go, I'm done with this. And so then later, when he doesn't like the decision and Neymar has this big public outburst, it's very simple. We've already talked. I said no more. Here's your card. Now, it's a little trickier if that person's already on a yellow, because you're going to send them off for that. That's a discussion we can have briefly. But if this person's not on a caution, it's very easy. And if anyone comes over and complains it, you're like, no. First half right over there, we talked. Here's the second one. I've already given him his chance. Here's his yellow. We're done.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you in that case.
So does our decision change if that player is on a caution? I don't care if it's Neymar, any player. If that player is on a caution, does our decision change in that situation?
Depends on what you said the first time. If you warned him he was on a caution the first time, especially if it was like super public, but basically once you draw that line in the sand, it doesn't change.
So that's, you guys are just, this feeding me to be like a baby spoon here. This is great. So Mitch said it perfectly. So sometimes we need to be very careful with what we say publicly, because we might be tying our own hands. If you look at someone and say, no more, next time you do it, you're getting a card. And it turns out to be someone who's already on a card. And now you've already said the next person who does this is getting a card. Now you're losing your credibility, not gaining credibility, and trying to manage the situation. So,
and at that same instant too, because I've had that happen to me. And before you can even show the card, the coach is screaming at you. And it's like, I got you, coach. I'm getting ready to, because I'm already reaching in my pocket to get the card, and the coach is yelling at me.
Yep.
Because, I was on his side when he heard that, and I'm trying to give a card and he's screaming. I'm like, I got you, coach. This is what I'm doing. You are so right. And then go issue the card.
And
I completely agree with you, Robin. 9 times out of 10, they remember it better than we do. Brooke, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think I've gotten myself into more problems saying next time that exact thing. Next time it's a card. I've done that enough and not given a card, because I'm like, well, I know I said it, and now I'm going to, put my foot in my mouth and not give one. And then everyone yells at you. But so I've done it a few times where I'm like, I'm never going to do that again. I don't say next time it's a card. But in the situation, because a lot of times what I do in a situation like that is, if I've said, that's enough, not, knock it off or whatever, and carded them, and then they do something silly, instead of send off, I go, and that's when I grab their keeper and their captain and their defense and say, you guys are responsible for keeping that guy in the game, because he obviously isn't listening to me. And I do something more public about, now I've warned your team and you guys keep him in because he's about ready to leave. So kind of try and invoke a little bit more of the team's help publicly.
Well, it depends upon the foul too. If it's kind of borderline where safety kind of plays into it, I'll say, that's usually, because I seldom say that. But if it's kind of a borderline gray area where yeah, maybe I should have issued the card, or I'm going to see what happens on the next one. So you got to kind of, I feel, look at how the foul impacted the game.
So let's all put our hats on for the moment and say we all achieved our goal as referees and we're all pro referees in the MLS. So if you're on a match with Kyle Beckerman, God rest his soul, is finally retired, thank goodness. You know he's going to commit like 43 fouls in that game, and probably 25 of them could be cautions. So you really have to pick and choose when you're going to give that card.
True.
So knowing your players. So Robin, you talked about doing your due diligence and getting, whatever background you can on teams, or maybe you've had them before. You know who the repeat offenders are.
Mm-hmm.
You have that in your mindset. You can't come out with a really quick card unless it's absolutely necessary, because that goes back to your game management. Now, did you just doom yourself to send someone off in the first 20 minutes? Now, that doesn't mean their actions didn't necessarily warrant it, but I'm saying the tools that we have, are there other tools? Can we show our soccer IQ? And to be honest, it's a perfectly fair conversation to have with the player. Kyle, come here. All right, bro, you and I both know you're going to commit about 17 more of these today. I'm going to give you this one, but I want you to know that I know that should have been a card. So I'm working with you. I know you get paid to do your job, and I am okay with that. Just don't cause me a bunch of problems, because we already know you should already be on one. Like, that's the human side of it. You're talking to a person. Help them understand. Show your soccer IQ. I know we both know that should have been a card. So I'm giving you one here. Do me a favor next time and don't cause me a problem.
I think that speaks right what you're talking about right now, like outside of cards, that's like speaks to why Bjorn is one of the best referees in the world, because he has the right emotion and personality for each moment of the game. He's usually super chill. He's, a quiet, reserved Dutchman, but as soon as the moment warrants it, he's got the exact, physical presence and all of that you need outside of having to use a card.
Yeah. Well, and then I think it was you, Mitch, that already talked about Colina earlier. Like the eyes. I mean, you would rather get a card than have him burn your soul with his eyes. So just knowing the situation, knowing when a card is necessary, knowing when you have to give it, but then having the ability to have a conversation with someone and show your IQ, be human, talk to them. But so to go back to Brooke real quick, she mentioned she gets herself in trouble saying that, next one's a card, no more. I personally have got those words completely out of my vocabulary. You can say that's enough. You can say no more. You can say don't do that again. You can say, but I like, so many players, coaches, fans think that referees make the game all about them. Oh, you made that decision. It's all about you. So when you talk to a player, put the onus back on them. Or even if you're making a public conversation, a public comment about something that's going on in a match, just make it very simple. Look, the next person that does this is going to make me make a decision I don't want to do, or is going to make me have to make a decision. So now you're saying your actions are going to force a decision. This isn't me deciding. No more. The next person that does this is going to force me to make a decision that I don't want to make. So knock it off. You're putting the onus right back on them. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to make this, but I will if you don't stop this. And so you're putting it right back on them. This isn't about me. This is your game. You make the decision. If you stop, great. If you don't stop, I have to make a decision that I don't want to make. So management comes all down to people. We have different personalities here in Idaho. But I have the ability to referee with matches and the opportunities of referees that are incredible people managers. It blows my mind how many situations they talk their way out of. We have a fantastic example of that, who's now a coach in Idaho, who's no longer reffing, but Tom Baker was probably one of I've never seen a referee good game, more players on a pitch, and as a coach than ever. But that man could manage the heck out of any situation. He rarely had to give a card because he could manage people. That was his style. That is not my style. I will manage a few things, but then I will just draw the line and be done with it. So it's different techniques. Quality referees, completely different personalities. So as long as you're not sacrificing safety, you're not, there's no inequality. One team's not getting to just run away with it because of the manner in which you're refereeing the game. Fred brought up a fantastic example of how that's going to be really difficult sometimes. And then if people are there to have fun, it's entertainment. Now, you may start blowing your whistle every 2 minutes to calm the game down for 5 or 10 minutes. And then hopefully they're going to figure it out and you're going to be able to let it go. You're not going to have to do that for 60 minutes. But, maybe you do make the game about you for a little bit to bring everyone back down to Mother Earth. And then you can start letting the game back out again. But use your full toolbox. Find some matches that you have some latitude with players. Maybe it's a couple teams that so you know who you can work with and who you can't. And maybe let a few more things go. Practice some management. So you start to play with, see where your comfort zone is. Change your style up a little bit, but make sure it's in an environment that if it starts to go sideways, you can get it back. I wouldn't elect to do that on, a men's Latino Premier game where they most likely aren't getting along with you from the first whistle. So to start making changes is probably not going to go well with you. So find situations where you can play, you can experiment, you can try some things as a referee, and then learn from them. Admit to yourself when it doesn't go right. We've all had a situation where we comment to somebody and make a little, comment and jest that we think is funny. They don't think is funny. They miss a shot or something and you crack a little joke at them thinking it's all good and they turn around and now they're pissed. And now you have to go back and apologize to that person and say, what, my bad. I thought that was a funny joke. I apologize. I shouldn't have said that. That's on me. I won't do it again. And just own it. Just, be a human with that person and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Now, hopefully it wasn't discriminatory like we've seen in some FIFA matches recently, and there's bigger problems. Maybe it was just a little comment about their crappy shot and they didn't take it well. But I hope out of this thing, if you get those 3 principles we talked about, don't let a match restart when it's out of control. Here, let me just go back to it so they're on the screen. You'll never let a match restart if it's not under control. If you can, allow the players to set the bar. It makes your job easier because you get immediate buy-in from the players and teams. And then just look for the outliers. Look for the challenges that are harder or the players that are being jerks. Just find the odd people, not manage every person on the field. And then in every situation, make sure that we're bringing it back down. We may have to get command presence for a second, but then we come back down. If we take those 3, you'll be better off for it. Go ahead.
And I forgot. What I was going to say too is when you're speaking to need to speak to a player, don't just be on the negative side, throw some positive in there, because I've had, I was ref in a girls team one time and this girl was phenomenal, but her attitude was pretty nasty. And I called a foul on her and she's like, ugh. And I called her over and I said, you're a good player. You don't have to foul like that. I said, so let's get yourself under control and let's be the player that you are. And I think sometimes as referees, we get caught in the moment and we're not positive also. I
agree. I love that you brought up the women's game real quick, Robin. I think this will be my last comment. Anyone else who has one can add, but we're at that 60-minute mark, so I want to be respectful of your time. But there is a dynamic in women's soccer that I've always struggled with. The fact that they do not want to talk to a male referee. And it really bugs me because I like letting players know where the limit is. This is good. That's not good. Don't do that. And working with them so that we are both on the same page. We know what to expect from each other and they can go play. And if I don't have to give a card, I won't. But there is a dynamic in women's soccer where the minute you try to talk to them, it's don't talk to the ref, don't talk to them, let them go. And I'm like, okay, my only other option here is to use misconduct. So if I can't talk to you, you're removing a whole bunch of tools from my bag and I have to go to the other tools that I have that you're not going to like. So it's just unfortunate that dynamic is there. I really wish that it wasn't as hardline of don't interact with male referees, because I really wish they were a little more personal sometimes and we could work with them. That's nothing against women. That's just a dynamic that I've seen in the game. It's nothing sexist or gender specific.
And it's the other way around too, as a female referee doing men's games and the Hispanic games. If you don't get their respect, you're doomed too. So you have to really watch sometimes how you talk to the males also as a female.
Understood. Understood. Guys and gals, I have to say gals because Robin and Brooke have been just as engaged as anyone else, but thank you for your engagement. I really wanted this conversation to be as much about you guys as what, any comments that I had to offer. So I appreciate you guys jumping in and being a part of this. Feel free to go check out the recording. It's going to be posted tomorrow, or tell people if you come across someone who has some questions that seems like they would learn from this conversation, send them to the YouTube page and have them go check out the video. But keep sending questions, find clips. Lauren and I were kind of joking about some crazy soccer clips he sends me every once in a while to look at. But if you were watching a match and you don't understand something that's happened, or we've had a conversation about something and now you're like, well, you said this, but I was watching this match and they did this. Send me a message, text me, email me. Hey, did you watch this match at this time? This happened. I'll go find a clip. I'll go do what I can to find what you're asking about, and we'll get you an answer. So don't hesitate. Be a student of the game. Go watch soccer. If you have questions, reach out to people on the committee and ask for help, and we will do our best to go find the clip so that we're giving you an accurate response to the question that you have. Be safe. I saw Rick's post earlier today that Eastern Idaho is unfortunately having a bunch of spikes in COVID. So I hope we don't see another flare up. We're kind of starting to get back to some football as normal. So be safe out there. I know it's kind of a pain doing some of our protocols, but there's a reason. So do what we need to do to keep this not only safe, but keep this going. So I will see you all soon. We'll be out on the pitch and tournaments and things in no time. So
Can I say one thing too on that with the adult league, only because I'm on the board of our CISL, that masks are mandated, no spectators are allowed. If you have to speak to a player, it's a yellow card. If you have to speak to them again, it's a red card. If you hit third time, the game is stopped. And that comes from the board due to the CDC and what Boise is requiring us to do. So if you're in another area, I don't know what you're doing, but that's what we're doing with the adult league in Boise.
correct. Please, I say this, Robin, I 100% agree with you, and I'm not trying to circumvent the CISL board or their protocol at all. Don't go picking a fight.
True.
Like, don't go looking for problems. I know that sometimes people need to bring their kids because they don't have childcare or something. Like, we're there to referee the match. Our goal is what's going on the field. If someone's violating that, please use your jurisdiction, use your tools and deal with it. But we have enough
Kids
problems.
are okay. And one adult is okay to watch those kids, but outside of that, really no spectators. And like I said, it took us 2 months to work on what we needed to do to satisfy Parks and Recs and everybody else.
No, I 100% understand. That's why I'm not trying to tell anyone to do anything different, because I don't want them to shut the league down. Boise's been the most strict on these protocols as anyone, but just be smart. Control what you can control. Don't go looking for a fight, because unfortunately,
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10, you'll find one. So thank you for your input, Robin. You're on the board. I welcome it. So please be safe, do well, and we will talk soon.
Everybody have a good weekend.
Thanks,
All right,
Jason.
bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Jason.
You guys take